The International School of Portland is celebrating its 35th birthday this year. It's one of only 2 schools in the entire United States that has 3 full language immersion programs under one roof, teaching in Chinese, Japanese, and Spanish. It's also the first school in the Pacific Northwest to offer the renowned International Baccalaureate Primary Years program. They're now enrolling students from preschool to 5th grade for fall of 2026. Sign up for a personal tour at intlschool.org.
Diamore Law Group believes personal injury is about public safety, not just a settlement check. Led by veteran trial attorney Tom Diamore, with over 30 years of experience holding negligent drivers, corporations, and unsafe institutions accountable across Oregon. And clients pay nothing unless they win. If you or someone you love has been seriously injured, call 503-222-6333 or visit diamorelaw.com to schedule a free consultation.
This is CityCast Portland. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. I'm hearing like a scraping, but I'm assuming that's just Sophie.
That was my mouse. I'm sorry. I will not do it anymore.
I just assumed it was freaking Sophie Hoobie Peel. Sophie cat is on my laptop, tippity tapping Peel.
My cat's writing an essay. What can I say?
Yeah, actually, it was Sophie's fault. I don't.
Well, granted, 99.9% of the time, the extra noises are definitely my fault.
That being out of the way, today on CityCast Portland, the city and county are fighting once again over the state of our ongoing homelessness crisis. We're also talking about a controversial Prosper Portland leadership pick and why it was revoked, and some exciting new ideas to transform our waterfront. Joining me today are Oregonian homelessness and mental health reporter Lillian Mongeau Hughes and Willamette Week City Hall reporter Sophie Peel. You guys, thanks for joining me this morning. What's up?
Hey.
Hello. I love when people wait a moment and then sync up to say hello. It's my favorite. I need you to know.
Do you want us to try again?
No, that wasn't sarcasm. I just think it's really cute. It's like a human, it's like waving at someone when you're moving faster than them. It's what happens. It's just human nature. You don't wave at people when you're on a train?
No.
What?
What? Are you kidding me?
You randomly when you're on a train, you always wave at the people?
At the other people in the train?
No, outside of the train. Or when you're on a boat, when you're on a boat and you wave and everybody waves back. You don't know?
I do
wave at people when I'm on a boat.
See, there you go.
I do that.
Lillian's looking at me like I'm insane.
I think you guys spend more times on boats and trains than I do.
Whatever.
I don't have a go-to boating habit.
Dude, I even wave when I'm on a plane. I'm someone can see me. All right, as most of our listeners know, before we jump into the news, I usually ask an opening question so any new listeners can get to know our guests a little better. And today's opening question is based on some reporting from Willamette Week, clocking Oregon's gas as the 5th highest in the nation. We're topping at, we're somewhere on average $5 per gallon. Tillamook County is charging as much as $5.22 per gallon. Also on yesterday's show, we talked about the possibility of rideshare apps in the city becoming more expensive, and Uber may be leaving. They might leave if a city ordinance passes, according to them. So my question to you both is, not thinking about cars because gas too high, not thinking about biking and public transit because that's a big duh. What else should Portland's popular mode of transportation be? Let whimsy be your guide. I could jump in if you guys need a little moment to think.
Well, this isn't fair because we didn't know that we couldn't say public transportation. I had this whole pitch for buses. So I was going to make the bus pitch.
A new idea.
It's a new old idea. It's old new idea. I started taking the bus again when I got this job and I have to go downtown. And the bus is lovely and you can go so many places on the bus and it's cheap and you can do your work. Or you can call your friend and be that annoying person.
Do not be that annoying person. Yeah, read a book.
I am that annoying person. Sorry to everybody on the bus when I'm also there.
You're just on the phone and you're just
Occasionally, yes. I talk quietly, the same you would talk to the person sitting next to you. I feel like you're allowed to talk on the bus. I overheard some teenagers like not wanting to do their homework and wanting AI to do it. And I suggested that maybe they should, in fact, read the book that was assigned to them in English class, which was not taken well, but it was a lovely community exchange. Yeah, I'm great to have on the bus. And I think everyone should take the bus more.
All right. Well, that was part of the question. Probably didn't get to you. That's fine. You know what? There was a passionate plea, and I'm going to keep it. Sophie, do you have one?
Yeah, well, I also didn't get this guidance.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
It's not just bikes in general. I have a specific type of bike that I really think should have a renaissance, and those are the ones that are like trick bikes, basically. The ones where you sit really low to the ground and your arms are like way up high. Mm-hmm. I rarely see them, but they're fast, they're small, they don't take up a lot of room. They're also like not expensive, and so if you get it stolen, you can just replace it with another little bike. They're like the little kids' bikes, basically.
You want us all to be on little kid bikes?
I do.
I think that's a good idea. You could probably also take the trick bike even on the bus if you needed to, so it's like a dual answer.
That's right. You don't even have to load it up on the front.
You could be like Lillian, carrying a bike over your shoulder that's like hitting you in the head while she's talking and then telling you that you should be reading this book.
Look, I just think it's very funny when you see an adult on one of those tiny trick bikes. I just think it's like such a delightful little thing.
It was The Great Gatsby. You should read The Great Gatsby, teenagers. It's short. Just read it.
Lillian's like, hold on, Catherine. I gotta take this. Listen, guys. You didn't ask me. Sorry. Mind the bike handlebars. You didn't ask me. But you should read this book.
I'm taking my Girl Scout troop on the bus today. We're taking the bus to a fire station. It's very civically minded Girl Scout troop. It's going to be great.
That sounds awesome. Okay, quickly, I think we should have more of those like bike-powered beer bars. You know, the ones that no one wants to get stuck behind downtown? Mm-hmm. I think it's their time to shine. Here's why. In our political climate, who doesn't want to have a guaranteed drink on their way home? Plus, with all of our busy schedules, it's so hard to fit socializing and also hitting the gym. So you're telling me I get to do both on my commute home? Come on, guys. Let's do it.
I mean, you win for whimsy, Claudia.
Well, I also thought it was pretty practical. Get a bike ride in, you get a beer in. Hey, hi guys, how's it going? You're waving to people. You're slowly
waving. I mean, it's true. There are more opportunities for waving in your scenario.
I gotta say, this was not our best showing.
Okay. I thought I had a pretty good idea. Damn, Sophie. All right, on to the news of the week. Lillian, you're kicking us off with a little math disagreement the city and the county are currently having. Lay it on us.
Well, I want to first give full credit to Alex Zielinski at OPP, who did a great job summarizing this debate. I was looking at a lot of the same documents, probably at the same time, pulling the curtain back on local news. That happens a lot. And we made a slightly different decision about how to proceed, but she did a great job laying it out. If you haven't read her story, you should do that. The math disagreement is basically the mayor saying the county's numbers of how many people are homeless are wrong. To be super clear, the city does not keep its own numbers. There's only one set of numbers. The county collects those numbers. There is no evidence that the county's numbers are wrong. In fact, there's pretty good evidence that they're as reliable as they've ever been, and they are probably correct. So it's sort of not a debate in that it's not like there's not like really two sides.
Okay,
there's like, you're wrong and no, we're not. And I have fact checked all of the like claims that the city has made, and like they are not correct. So I don't really, to be honest, think that there's like a debate here exactly about the numbers.
Are you saying this is more like, old man mayor yells at cloud?
I would never phrase something that way about Portland Mayor Keith Wilson. I think that he is seeing what he considers to be a reduction in homelessness on the street in downtown Portland, and he has opened these shelters that he's very proud of, and people are using them, and he is convinced that that has lowered homelessness in the city, and that is not represented by the numbers. It's hard to say why, given the amount of work the county has done at this point in this game that's been playing out for the last month or so, to prove that their numbers are accurate and well managed. It's not clear to me why he hasn't kind of let up a little bit on that. But what we were waiting for at the Oregonian was for him to say in some sort of public speech, like, the county is wrong, and he wasn't saying that. And OPB made the move of like pinning him down and saying, what do you think? And he was like, anecdotally, we're seeing the numbers are going down. So that's what people should really be taking into account. And I mean, it was a fair move because he'd been saying it behind the scenes. Now he said it publicly to OPB. They pinned him on it, and it's not true. The numbers are not going down.
So basically, it's a question of data versus anecdotal data, which is anecdotal data a real thing?
No, it is not.
Okay, cool. Nice confirmation there. So basically, he's like, in my soul, I feel like there's less homelessness. And the county is like, but in the numbers and the facts that exist in real life.
Yeah, he asked staff to look into this, and there was this like presentation produced by city staff that I obtained through public records request, as did OPB, and I kind of went through it slide by slide, as did they, as later did the county, and then they wrote this very detailed 16-page report going through each slide in this deck and sent the whole thing to city council. So like there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I won't get into all the details in that mostly incorrect slide presentation, but there was like presented in there like, the county doesn't deduplicate enough. Like, that's not actually true. The PIC count numbers, which is the federal count that's done, is added incorrectly to the by name list, which is the name of the data collection that the county is doing. It's not correct that those are added together without deduplication. I mean, so there was just like a lot of like mistakes in this presentation. Hard to say like where all that got started, but it was wrong.
But all I know is that we paid for it and it took time. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine this slide presentation took too much time because
I'm sorry. I just assumed
you didn't need to do that much work to pull this thing together because it was wrong.
Okay. This is not comforting. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
But I do wonder if city council, if they've said anything. I know mayor, city council, different, but also
different.
Question. What do they think?
I mean, not to just toss this question to Sophie, but have you heard anything, Sophie? Because I have not.
No. And that's because I haven't really been making calls because I've been working on something else. So I'm actually a little out of step, I think, with what the council's doing right now.
Should we get him on the horn? Who do we just get Jamie on?
I think I can safely say that there hasn't been any sort of like unified statement. There hasn't been like one counselor going like, hey, you really need to know something about this. Like that hasn't happened. So I think that when the arguments around the budgets on both governments get going in the next like couple weeks here, we're going to hear more about that and whether or not these numbers are trusted. It's tricky because, you know, the numbers we had on homelessness just a few years ago were just from this federal biannual count. That count has always been a known undercount ever since it started. A few places, including Portland, have made an effort to get like a much more detailed count. So the count they have now is based on talking to people who are actually accessing homeless services. So the people included in the county's current count are people who have within the last 90 days stayed at a shelter, come to some sort of day services center, received rent assistance, things like this, like basically things that you only get if you are homeless. So they're very certain that the people in the count that they have now have, at least in the very recent past, received homeless services. Once a person doesn't show up in the count for 90 days, they fall off the list. So they're not like holding people on there that like weren't on there before. And the interesting part is one thing that has always happened is that when more services are provided, then more people are counted because more people are receiving those services.
Showing up.
We are very likely next year to see fewer services provided from both the city and the county because of budget reductions. And then depending on what happens with the fight on the federal government funds, we might lose funding there too a year down the road. If all of those numbers go down, like if the funding goes down, then the services will reduce. That will ironically make it look very likely that the homeless population has gone down, and that will not be true.
Yeah.
So it's very complicated, but I can say for certain that this is a count based on actual people receiving actual services, and therefore it's fairly trustworthy.
What is the actual count? Like what was it before and where is it now?
So right now we're at almost 18,000 people in Multnomah County who are experiencing homelessness.
18,000?
18,000.
Holy shit.
About 5,000 of those people are sheltered, close to 9,000 unsheltered. And there's about 4,000 people whose shelter status is unknown. That can be for a lot of reasons. Like they can just not answer that question when they're sort of like checking in with a service that they're
last year?
getting. Well, this is by month now.
Pardon.
The numbers are updated every month. So if I were to look at last year, that would take me half a second.
Don't worry. But I was.
Okay, all right.
You said it increased. I believe you because this is your job to know these numbers.
The number has increased. And I mean, some of that is probably because we're
counting them
added
now.
services, including the mayor's new shelters. One of the things the mayor has said is like, well, people are using my shelters and so therefore homelessness has gone down. He's kind of talking about people sleeping outside on the street. It's possible that people sleeping outside on the street has slightly gone down.
He's always talked about unsheltered homelessness, though.
Yes, but I'm making a distinction here. If you are sleeping inside at a nighttime only shelter and then you're spending the rest of your day outside, according to like the standing legal definitions, you are still experiencing unsheltered homelessness.
Gotcha.
So I think that there is part of this is that Wilson kind of wants people who are staying at his shelters to be considered sheltered, and they are not. And that's not because the county's being difficult. Like, that's because there are, standing definitions, like federal definitions for how you count this stuff.
I think that the timing of this kind of disagreement is really interesting because obviously the mayor is jockeying to find money for his overnight shelters to continue funding them. And so it seems like a very, it makes a lot of sense to me why right now is when he would start disputing that homelessness has grown despite him opening up however many shelter beds he actually opened up. So this seems like just a very politically convenient fight to pick right now. And it's really interesting that he was kind of doing it, behind the scenes and may not have wanted to go public quite yet. Like he was kind of doing behind the scenes work to convince people that the county's estimates were wrong. And, now that it's public, I think maybe it's not really going over how he hoped it had gone over. And Lillian, you had asked like how the city council has responded to this. And I don't know about this issue specifically, but what I can say is like the temperature check that I get from counselors about the mayor is that sort of this idea of like, let's just let the mayor do what the mayor's going to do, right? He kind of lives with his head in the clouds sometimes. He says things that he doesn't, don't always come off the right way, or he says things that are sometimes a little bit dubious. And so I think the council sometimes honestly treats him sort of like a kid a bit of like, let's just let the mayor do what he wants to do and we'll do what we're going to do. And so I don't know if that's applicable to this situation, but I think just that is the sentiment that I've gotten from some counselors.
Yeah. Lillian, thanks for breaking that down. I want to go in deeper, so maybe we'll just have you back on because I'm also just like, and now he's asking all the counties for money and more questions on that.
I mean, the last thing I'll say is yes, now he's asking the counties for money. We've heard about some other requests for money that have gone out. I mean, he's trying to fund his shelters any way he can. Look, it's tricky the way the local funding for homelessness, the SHS funding through the Metro Regional Tax works. Multnomah County gets less per homeless person in the county than the other counties get. And that's because the distribution is not based on the number of homeless people. It's based on the number of taxpayers who put money into the system in the first place.
Exactly.
So it's distributed fairly there. But once you do the homeless population numbers, it's different. So that's his argument. Funnily enough, this is an argument Multnomah County has been making since the SHS tax began. And so they're actually in agreement on that. But the mayor's been framing his ask for more money up specifically for
his
funding
shelters.
His shelters.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
As opposed to just like overall or it going to, God forbid, Multnomah County. So...
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's take a quick break here. And when we return, Sophie is sharing a bit of Prosper Portland hot goss. I'm sure that's not how she's going to frame it, but that's how I'm seeing all reporting now. Just political hot goss. Looking for something fun and free to do with the kids? On Friday, April 17th and Saturday, April 18th, YMCA is celebrating Healthy Kids Day. It's happening at locations all across the Portland Metro and Southwest Washington. It's a national YMCA event that helps families stay active, healthy, and connected with creative projects, outdoor games, and even family swim at select sites. Again, Healthy Kids Day is totally free, and you can find your closest event and full schedule at ymcacw.org/HKD-FM. That's ymca.org/HKD-FM.
Spring home buying season is back in Portland. That home you're in love with, the Portland bungalow with room for garden beds in the backyard and easy access to the Max line, it's fetching multiple offers. If you are in the market anywhere in the Portland metro area and feel like your offers aren't getting accepted, talk to James Adair at Neo Home Loans powered by Better. James has spent more than 20 years helping Portland families get their offers accepted. And he's put together a list of 12 specific ways to improve your offer. He calls it the unfair buyer advantage. You don't need more offers. You need one that wins. Download his free playbook at unfairbuyeradvantage.com. That's unfairbuyeradvantage.com. James Adair, NMLS 272766 with Better Mortgage Corporation. NMLS 330511, an equal housing lender.
All right, Sophie, so what is going on at Prosper Portland this time? Also, can you quickly explain what Prosper Portland is to people not fully on board with how our city government assigns random-ass names to city bureaus?
Yes, Prosper Portland is the City of Portland's economic development agency. And this week I am talking about a story about how Prosper Portland chose a sort of controversial facilitator for one of its advisory committees. And this advisory committee is one of 6 committees set up to kind of oversee and help guide Prosper's work after they formed 6 new tax increment financing districts in East Portland and then in the central city. So tax increment financing districts or urban renewal areas. It's a kind of somewhat controversial, actually, economic revitalization tool. But essentially what it does is the city draws a boundary around like a certain geographic area, and then it pretty much keeps the property taxes that are generated within that boundary within that area. They bond against the expected tax revenues in that area. They have a bunch of money, and then they use it to build affordable housing. They use it to build out storefronts and sidewalks, basically any improvements you can think of. It's been a somewhat controversial tool, as many people know, just because historically in Portland, those urban renewal areas, yes, they have, increased housing prices and they've brought new businesses to the area, but they've also created a lot of displacement and gentrification in those areas. And so the former city council in the fall of 2024 basically greenlighted 6 new TIF districts and sort of saddled the current city council with those districts. But anyways, that's all a little bit of background. So Prosper Portland recently formed committees to help guide and oversee those 6 new TIF districts, and they brought in a moderator for one of those TIF districts, a guy named Dr. Stephen Holt. He's a pastor. He is also a consultant that has frequently been used by the Oregon Department of Transportation and Prosper Portland, actually, on various projects. But he's a really controversial figure in the Black community. So in 2020, he was the subject of a sexual harassment complaint by an Urban League of Portland female staffer. And then, the staffer at that time had reported the alleged incident to Prosper, and Prosper said they had dealt with it, and however, they kept hiring him. And then in 2022, he actually turned around and sued the Urban League of Portland for $7 million in damages. He alleged reputational damage and he alleged defamation because the executive director and president of the Urban League of Portland, Nakenge Harmon, had basically this is so circuitous, but had written a letter to the National Urban League after they had scheduled an event that Dr. Stephen Holt was going to facilitate. And she said, just so you know, he's not allowed at Urban League of Portland because of these things.
Damn.
And so he turned around and sued them for defamation. Unsuccessfully, a judge ruled in favor of the Urban League and Nakenge Harmon. But this is all to say he's a very controversial figure. And Prosper Portland once again chose him to facilitate this advisory committee. The committee very swiftly took issue with that. And last night, Cornell Wesley, who is Prosper Portland's executive director, spoke to the committee and said, look, we're sorry, we didn't do this process as transparently as we would have liked to. We're going to go back to square one, and you guys are going to pick the facilitator. So they basically revoked the offer for Dr. Stephen Holt to facilitate this thing and said the committee's going to choose. So this all happened in the past 12 hours. Like it went down really quickly, and that's where we're at.
See? Hot goss. I'm curious, what does this facilitator even do? Like, what is his role? What is his influence? Like, why is it so? I'm not pro or anti. I'm just curious, like, why there was an issue of, like, we don't want this man in this arena.
Yeah, it's really unclear. I don't have a copy of the contract, Prosper's contract with Dr. Stephen Holt, so I actually don't know the exact job description. My understanding is that he was basically going to kind of oversee and help facilitate this community advisory committee. Claudia, I think you raised a really good question about, like, why is that necessary? Like, the committee's the committee. Can't they, like, I don't know, do it themselves? So I actually don't really know technically what his role would be. I think city government has certainly a pattern of maybe hiring facilitators when they're not always necessary.
I saw the story, and I know Sophie's been doing a lot of reporting on Prosper, and I guess, like, I've run into this whole character before, too, because he's done, some housing-related stuff. And my question is actually more like, maybe stepping back, and maybe you guys have talked about this before, but like, what is going to happen with these TIF districts and the like highway expansion and all that? Like, I feel like it's been talked about for so long, and I've lost track of like what's really coming or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think these new TIF districts probably will not, because they're in East Portland in the central city, I really don't think they will necessarily touch the Rose Quarter expansion. Like, I think that's a bit of a separate issue that obviously Dr. Stephen Holt was, worked for the Oregon Department of Transportation to basically sell a widening of the freeway to the Black community that the construction of I-5 in the 1960s like really destroyed. It just completely ravaged the Black community in North Portland, displaced a bunch of, families, homes, Black-owned businesses, and then he was kind of the, ODOT's go-to guy for convincing the same community that an expansion was actually a good thing. Another reason why he's kind of a controversial pick. As far as the TIF districts, I mean, it is really unclear. Prosper Portland has a really kind of spotty track record of actually implementing these TIF districts and getting the most out of them. They're kind of trying to rebrand these TIF districts as something that as a model that will bring in the community a lot more than it previously had, like more of a kind of grassroots movement and grassroots project versus a top-down, very bureaucratic process. And that model hasn't really been tested yet. And I think these 6 new TIF districts are Prosper's attempt to see if they can sort of rewrite what a Portland TIF district might look like. It's going to be really interesting to see if that actually works out the way they want it to.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that Dr. Holt is such a controversial figure in the local Portland Black community, but these white spaces keep employing him. And I just think that is interesting in itself. That's all I'm going to say.
It's really interesting.
It is interesting.
It is interesting. That's all we're going to say is interesting. But also that they also kind of hired him to sell this whole interstate widening to the Black community when they're already just like, we don't trust this guy.
Yeah. It's actually really surprising to me that Prosper continues to hire him. I think they know that naturally in whatever position they hire him to be, like, there will be controversy around it and there will be coverage around it and people will be unhappy, and yet they continue to do it. I don't know if that's a thing of ease. I don't know if it's because he's like a known entity.
He already filled out the contractor paperwork, right. And they're like, we don't want to send this out again. Jesus.
I really don't know, but it feels like they should have known what was coming.
Well, thanks for breaking that down, Sophie. Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, the Willamette Waterfront is getting a makeover. You guys, as we all know, the Willamette River has a bit of a nasty girl reputation, though we've poured millions of dollars am I wrong? In city infrastructure to prevent poop overflow. And we also have daily monitoring to prove that she's cleaned up her act. Because of our city's initial disregard for clean and healthy river water, most of our waterfront urban planning was based on the ew, don't let it touch me philosophy, which is really sad because once you visit other cities with waterways and you see how cool life could be, you see these like beautiful waterfront esplanades and shopping districts and beer gardens and more accessible public kayaking and sailing rentals. They're like one with their water. And we could have it all, but because we've created moats to keep us away from our own river, the Tom McCall waterfront area might be the closest thing we have to like a large scale public riverfront park. And we're not even near the river, really. Like, we're above it, looking at it. So right now, we're also struggling with tourism, trying to get it back to pre-pandemic Portlandia era levels. So an attractive waterfront, people are thinking here, could attract more visitors overall. So both Willamette Week and the Oregonian have looked into some possible waterfront projects that could open up our waterfront, and some ideas have been floated. Get it? Nobody got it. That's great. Great, guys.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Wow.
That was good.
Wow. Yeah. Float. Okay. I just got booed. I just need you to go that I just got booed in the chat with the producers for that one. Literally, and I just need you to know that a visual boo is just as hurtful as an audio one. Okay. So one of the ideas was a barge floating just offshore with restaurants and bars, which sounds amazing if we can actually keep the wave speedboats in check, because they never, I don't know if you've been out on the river, they don't pay attention to like the no wake zones. They're just out there riff-raffing.
How would you do bathrooms, though, on a floating barge?
I think they'd be like how you do bathrooms on boats and stuff. So there are also some just really exciting large-scale projects already in the works that I wanted to share. But first, I'm just curious, like, what you guys would want to see on our riverfront.
You keep asking me questions about things I never think about. I don't.
You've never thought about a river or how you would want to enjoy it?
No.
Okay. What about you, Sophie?
Well, I would say I'm in a similar boat.
You're a similar boat.
A similar boat.
Okay,
I like open water swimming. I would do that.
Me
I think
too.
It's clean enough. Yep.
Yeah, it is clean enough.
Last year I started training for like a mini triathlon, and so I did a lot of swimming, and so I'm ready. I'm ready for open water swimming.
Just easier access and maybe more like quadrant off, like the boats won't get you here type.
Yeah, though I have to
and
say, as a former
yeah.
lifeguard, I also like the fact that it's difficult to go open water swimming in the Willamette restricts it to people who really want to go and somewhat know what they're doing. If it was really easy, there would be all these additional issues you would have to take into account. Like having just like swimming districts available in rivers is dangerous, as we learn every single summer in the Sandy River.
Right.
I love the idea of a barge with things on it.
Yeah, true.
And then if you have
fun.
like different modes of transportation from the shore to the barge, I mean, that's fun, like
It's
you rent
totally
a little
fun.
paddle board or you rent a little kayak. I don't know. Like, that's awesome. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But I think it's great.
Before the negativity rains down, I want to tell you about some of these riverfront projects already in the works. So first we have Tumwata Village, which is a 23-acre site up river in Oregon City, where like this paper mill used to be. So the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde purchased the land in 2019. They're planning to redevelop and restore that area. It's going to bring in housing, a hotel, retail and office spaces, along with natural spaces for tribal activities and public access. There's also across the way from that is the Willamette Falls Intertribal Public Access Project. That is a mouthful. And that's going to be almost a counterpart. This project is led by the Confederate Tribes and bands of Yakima Nation, Siletz Indians, and Umatilla Indian Reservation, and the tribes of Warm Springs. It would go also in the place of another shuttered paper mill, and they're envisioning walkways running along the river above the falls, which is amazing, with outdoor community spaces integrated within that natural landscape, and the renderings look absolutely beautiful. OMSI, closer to us, is also looking to redevelop 24 acres on the east side of the Willamette, where they're located, with new construction that would include restaurants, hotels, offices, stores, and apartments. Also planned as a center for tribal nations that could bring a variety of economic opportunities for Native entrepreneurs, nonprofits, governments, that kind of thing. There are more actual developments in the process of getting sorted out. There's the Waterfront Park Bowl area south of the Hawthorne Bridge where the dragon boat races take place every year. So the mayor really wants to add swimming and kayaking access as well as an outdoor entertainment stage. That vision part is already in the works. They already funded like some sort of contest to see who can draw the coolest rendering for what could be. The 1803 fund also secured 10 acres to build out the Albina Riverside on the banks of the river near the Moda Center, which will be awesome. Right now, I think there's grain silos. That's going to go away. And near my neighborhood, there are plans approved for the Willamette Cove Nature Park, which is a 27-acre park that will include trails, restrooms, a covered gathering space, beach access, maybe one of those swimming spaces could go there, and a spot for boaters. There are other plans on the way, and what I'm thinking is, I think, Sophie, you were just like, we need like transpo, and I think that the Frog Ferry might actually be, this is where they might shine, because I do
like the idea of a frog ferry, and then we could all practice our like boat waving.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've never waved on a boat.
On a much more regular, I mean, I don't know, maybe. I'm just saying that if there was a ferry in the city, I could take the bus to the ferry and the ferry to the office. It would be great, and I could wave at everybody I passed.
And I would wave back, because that's how that works.
Thank you.
Because I feel like the Frog Ferry, just so you know, to a lot of transpo nerds, it's a joke to them. Like, they're just like, whatever. And I'm like, no, this is real. This could actually be a thing that connects all of these amazing spaces that are actually coming online. Because how are we going to access it? Like, how cool if we accessed it via the river,
I love the enthusiasm and the optimism here, because I'm like looking at Sophie's face on this, and I don't want to speak for her, but I think both of us as like dyed-in-the-wool reporters are like, I will believe it when I see it. We will just be right here waiting.
You know what, guys?
And in the meanwhile, well, the economics reporters can cover whether or not this is realistic. But I think it's very cool that 2 of the projects are tribal led. That is very cool because the river belonged to them for a very long time.
Yeah, before
the rest of us
before
showed
we
up
crapped on
with
it.
our frog ferries and our poop. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the frog ferry isn't part of the poop. But yeah, I hear that.
Okay, sorry. The frog ferry, I read the article when you sent it early this morning, and it's going to be electric. It sounds lovely.
It does
sound
sound
lovely. I love
lovely.
the idea of an electric frog ferry from which I can wave to passerby.
And it might include a bar because it's Portland. And again, hitting that
just
thing.
Include a bar on all of the public transport. There is no beer on the bus that was pitching earlier. I will say that.
I mean that people can.
You're out of luck there.
Yeah. Well, I mean that we could tell, of course. Yeah.
If those teenagers had beers instead of books, they would have heard a lot more from me.
Oh my God. Well, here's the best part about these projects is that they're not being funded by the city or the county. So that's why
that does seem positive for their likelihood of succeeding.
Doesn't that seem positive? Okay, great. Yes. Awesome. You guys, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for going through some of these headlines. Your headlines. Love this duo. I think you two should come back together. I just love that you two, I just literally gave you so much joy. I was so excited, and you two were just so ready to crap on it. That's all I'm gonna say is that you two were just you were so
and then
negative.
You invited us back,
and then you didn't even listen to where things were getting funded. You're just like, the city can't do that. I was like, yeah, the city won't be doing that, fuckers. Okay, so anyhow, well, before we head out, we have some shout outs from members of our Portland Neighbors program. One of the perks of being a paying member of CityCast Portland is the opportunity to shout out a local business or organization that you love. Sophie, you're going to kick us off. I guess we're paying you now. Go on.
This is my first time ever doing a shout out, and I'm so excited. And I hope that came off genuine because I feel that genuinely, but I also feel like that sounded really sarcastic, but it wasn't.
It also looked very sarcastic, but go on.
No, I'm just focusing on reading. Okay. I have one here from Jason P. He says, Lionheart Coffee. Their rotating selection of locally roasted specialty coffee is outstanding, and they're passionate about supporting the community and making Beaverton better. Oh, we got a Beaverton one.
Nice. I have one here from John H. who says, La Osita PDX was one of the best breakfast taco and burrito carts in Portland, and now they are one of the best restaurants in Portland with their new brick and mortar located in Montevilla. Seriously, the best breakfast tacos you will ever have. Show them love at their new location. I will, John H., because that sounds awesome.
Then I have one more here from Michael B.
Michael B. Jordan?
He says, that's what I was going to say, and I was like, that's a dumb joke. I'm not going to say it.
I said it for you.
Thank you. He says, join the sensational, locally created science fiction audio drama epic, Exoplanetary, for their first solo
It's exoplanetary, by the way. Exoplanetary.
Yeah. For their, what did I say?
You know what? We'll rewind the tape and we'll play it again.
Exoplanetary. Okay. Exoplanetary for their first solo appearance anywhere at OMSI's Empirical Theater, April 16th.
Nice. Well, shout out to Jason, John, and Michael when you join us, Portland Neighbor. We'd also be happy to read out your shout outs of places that you love in Portland alongside a bunch of other perks like ad-free listening. We have some upcoming member-only events that you might be interested in. Join at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. Our podcast production team this week was John Atariani, Julie Fiaioni, Rachel Monahan, Jesse Wiza, Jason Patton, Elizabeth Kama, and myself. Original music by Jenny Conley and Stephen Drizos, and additional music by All the Kimonos. Our ad music is by Sven Lindvall and Sarah, the instrumentalist from Epidemic Sounds via Getty Images. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's or a fast-moving vehicle where I will be teaching Lillian how to wave to people.